All right, welcome in to Big Hitters Only. This is a very, very special episode. We have potentially a future governor of North Carolina, Josh Stein, running for governor. The election's in a couple weeks, 2 weeks away. Remember to rate, review, subscribe. This is a big guest for us. We appreciate Josh's time. We're also joined by Michael Hardison. Josh, what's going on? Can I call you Josh? Do I call you Mr. Attorney General? What do I call you?
For the last 8 years, I've asked my wife to call me General. It's yet to happen, so you can call me Josh.
Awesome. And we want to have Josh on to talk UNC basketball. He grew up in Chapel Hill. He's running for governor in the state of North Carolina. So we thought we'd bring him on and talk a lot of UNC basketball stuff, get into some campaign and NCAA stuff as well. But really give him a chance to show who he is as a Tar Heel basketball fan. First question, kind of what's your connection to UNC basketball? What's your involvement with it and anything that kind of connects you to something that North Carolina natives and UNC fans really love?
So grew up first in Charlotte, first 5 years, and then we moved to Chapel Hill so that my mom could go and get her master's. And I was moving into kindergarten. And so basically I grew up in Chapel Hill from 71 to 84 was when I graduated high school and then left. I've been back, for the last 30 years. But there are no more formative years than those 12 years. And the allegiances you form are the most intense possible at that era. And my mom, when she graduated, got a job with the university. And so she had access to the ticket lottery. And back then, you could actually just apply. And if you waited a year or two as a faculty member, you could get tickets to Carmichael. And I think at first, the batch was you didn't get all season tickets, you get 10 tickets. You get 10 games, 2 tickets. And like the happiest day of the year for me was when the tickets would come in because they'd be colored with whatever color the team we were playing. And we put them in a hat, and there were 5 people in our family. So we each got to go to 2 games. And it was sort of like you picked your ticket. And if you got the Duke ticket, you were golden. Actually, back then, honestly, the state ticket was bigger.
Yeah.
But if you got Clemson, you were like, damn it, I don't want to go to the Clemson game. But it was like the happiest day of the year.
So what teams did you get there? I mean, you got some Jordan there and
Yes.
early Phil Ford. What were some of the teams that you remember seeing growing up as a kid?
I think the first player I really remember was John Kuester, just a really feisty guard. And then Phil Ford came in immediately after that. Just unbelievable player, beautiful player, poetry in motion, really in sync with the coach. He was an absolute extension of Dean Smith on the court. My favorite player is Walter Davis. And it's because when I was a kid, he befriended me. I played soccer growing up, and Carolina had a soccer camp, and we would stay in Granville Towers. And he would be there because all the basketball players would be there over the summer working out. And one year I met him and we did all these series of chicken fights. It was me and him, and I forget who was with Jeff Crumpton. Jeff Crumpton, by the way, was a huge human being. But we were chicken fight kings in the pool at Granville Tower. And then the next summer, I was back again, and it was 1976. They just won the gold medal because if you won't remember this, but famously, Dean Smith in 1976 was coach of the Olympic team. It was back when they had amateurs, and he picked 4 Tar Heels for the team, which was very controversial back in the day, Walter Davis being one of them, and they won the gold medal. And I remember I was crossing the parking lot at Granville with all these buddies of mine, sees me from across the parking lot and says, "Hey, Josh, what's happening?" And all these kids were looking at me like, Walter Davis is calling your name across the parking lot. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever experienced.
I'm curious, Josh. I feel like everyone has that one team they remember the most. And for you, like what season is it just like ingrained in your head the first time you were like, "Oh my God, like this is my school," you know?
I would say 1977 for that because I was 10 years old.
Hmm.
We went to the national championship. It was Phil Ford, it was Walter Davis, my 2 favorite players. Tommy Lagarde, Mike O'Korn, I think, was a freshman that year. And they got to the national championship. Al McGuire's last game, Butch Lee went off, and they won. So it was I think Ford was injured, which it inhibits your ability to play. And Walter Davis had injured his shooting hand, and it was very funny. It was on his left. It was his ring finger on his left hand. I think it was. Maybe it was on his right hand, but whatever it was, all of us in elementary school came to school taping our fingers the way that Walter Davis had taped his fingers because we all wanted to be like him. And the 1982 team, it was just when you look, more amazing looking back that 3 of the top 50 NBA players or 75 NBA players of all time were on that team. And even then, we had to beat Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler in the semifinals, 2 of the best players of all time. It was a golden era of college basketball that I don't think will ever be replicated simply because kids don't stick around anymore.
It's crazy being in the same town as Michael Jordan, like that, being able to see him play a lot live. I mean, I've never seen him play live, and to see him play in Carmichael and kind of that era, unbelievable. Mike, what's your favorite team? What's the team that you really love?
I would say for me, I mean, I grew up, with not a big connections in the University or North Carolina. So I came in as a freshman, very green to UNC basketball. I remember distinctly the 2010 to 2011 team, Harrison Barnes freshman year. We beat Kentucky in December when they were ranked. We were unranked. It's hysteria inside the Dean Dome. We walk outside. It's snowing in Chapel Hill. Magical, magical day. I think for me, that 2011-2012 team always has a special place in my heart, even if they only made the Elite Eight.
And then I was in school for the '05 championship team. So '05 team with Sean May, Rashad McCants, Raymond Felton, Jawad Williams, Marvin Williams, Jackie Manuel. And then '09, I caught 4 years of Hansborough. So 3 years of Hansborough, 2 years of Ty Lawson and Wayne Ellington. So the '09 team, they were so good. And that was like peak Roy Williams, where they did not lose and they were blowing out ACC teams during that like 3-4 year run. Those were great. But yeah, the John Henson, Tyler Zeller.
That old NCAA run in '09, they didn't win a game by less than double digits when they won the national championship. So it was just from start to finish, total domination.
Yeah, and then Ty Lawson was so good. But I did love that Harrison Barnes, Kendall Marshall, Dexter Strickland, Reggie Bullock, John Henson team. Okay, so maybe move into the era that we can speak into. But, what are your all-time starting 5 for UNC? I think this is a fun game a lot of UCN fans like to do. You can pull some from your childhood, but think of the whole era of UNC basketball. What's your all-time UNC starting 5? Then Mike and I will give ours.
So just to be precise, because I'm a lawyer, we're talking about starting 5 as opposed to the best all-time 5.
Yeah, let's go position. So give us a point guard, shooting guard, a wing,
point
forward.
Guard, Phil Ford, that I think is indisputed. Shooting guard is actually a closer call than people might think. Michael Jordan, yes. Charlie Scott may have had a better college career than Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, of course, went on to be the best of all time. So we're colored by his NBA success. But he won a national championship. And so I will use national championships as tiebreakers. So Ford, Jordan, small forward, Lenny Rosenbluth, again, national champ. Scored 27 points a game the year they won the national championship. Unbelievable. And then we've got a plethora of 6'9" superstars. You got Worthy, you got Jamison, and you got Tyler Hansbrough. You got to put Hansbrough in, all-time leading scorer, national champ. And then Jamison may have had a slightly better college career than Worthy, but Worthy was really transformative and 28 points in the national championship game. So I would insert Worthy first ahead of Jamison, but it's hard to leave Jamison on the bench. Hard to leave all these guys on the bench. I mean, at every position. It was making me think that I wasn't picking a true center, and so I was asking myself who are the best all time centers, and I was thinking maybe Brad Daugherty. Brendan Haywood, Montross, national champ. Mitch Kupchak didn't get that national championship. He left in '76, so he didn't make it to that national championship or the championship game run. And then, obviously, we all love the one who just left. His name just escaped me.
Armando
Oh,
Bacot.
Armando, yeah, all-time
Yeah,
leading
yeah.
scorer. Took him 5 years,
Okay.
but and that's still pretty cool.
Yeah, numbers wise, he's up there. I mean, a lot of those guys had better college careers than Jordan. People forget that Hansbrough are probably the best numbers wise all time. All right, I'll do mine real quick. I'm gonna go more my era. I mean, I didn't see these guys play. I mean, I know Lenny Rosenbruth was awesome, and I know Phil Ford's awesome. But just to modernize it a little bit here, I'll go Ty Lawson. I love Ty Lawson. I'll go him at the one. Shooting guard, man. I'll go Jordan shooting guard at the three. I'll go Vince Carter. All right, fun. Duncan, can you imagine that combo there? At four, I'm gonna put Hansbrough as my center. I want to make him my center, even though he's like 6'8". And then at four, I will go. I'll go John Henson and Tyler Hansbrough. I think you put either of those at the four and the five. I love John Henson. He's always talking junk to the other team. He loved beating NC State, even though he's probably not one of the best UNC players. I just love the way he played. Mike?
Oh, I loved Henson too. I mean,
Yeah.
Rashid, before your time, Rashid,
Oh, Rasheed Wallace. Yeah.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
I'm got a little bit of a combo. I'm gonna go Felton as my point guard.
Okay.
Sounds like Phil Ford would have been my pick. We got picked early. Gotta go Jordan as shooting guard. I might go out of the box here for my starting three. I might go Justin Jackson. Looking at the modern NBA in terms of what he did from the 3-point range during that 2017 run, I think you got to kind of put him up there. Jameson at power forward, and then I put Hansbrough at center. But underrated and often overlooked, Tyler Zeller is a stud at the five. Also won a title, barely, by the 2009 run. But I think that would be my go-to.
Great. Josh, what was it like living in Chapel Hill in the 70s and 80s?
It was
Compare it
wide
to
open.
there now.
Yeah, I mean, totally different vibe. It was there was one high school, there were two middle schools. Everybody knew each other. You were outdoors all the time. I mean, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have phones, barely any decent TV. So you were just outside playing all the time. So it was a ball. It was either basketball, soccer, it was touch football, anything. So we played every day after school. You got on your bike and you rode over the whole town. You owned the whole town, and people. It was very fun. It was wide open. So many of my best friends today are those people I grew up with, and we still see each other all the time. So a lot of people left for periods of times in their lives, but they come back to the Triangle because it's such a great place to raise a family.
Yeah, I mean, back then, it's still a small town. I lived in Chapel Hill for 8 years, my late 20s and 30s, and it's still small town vibes, but I can't imagine back then, but then you have the university there, which kind of drives in Raleigh down the road, so it kind of drives a different type of small town. All right, you want to get in the 24, 25 team? Have you been watching this team at all and reading up on them at all?
I did
I know
watch
you've been
the
busy.
Well, driving home late at night on ESPN, I watched the game against Memphis, and obviously Seth Trimble exceeded even my high expectations. I've always thought he's immensely talented. 33 points, I did not predict. I hope he continues to ride at a plane where he's producing all season, and I think he can and will. The Cadeau, I think if he just gets more confidence in a shot, which he seems to have, he was just letting it loose in that game and making them. If guys have to guard him at the 3-point line, then he's in the lane, scoring and distributing. And that we played really well, and we didn't even have RJ on the floor. Of course, the $64,000 question with this team is the interior. Can they play a strong team, a strong center, and withstand it? I think Jalen Washington has a lot of potential. He has great touch and confidence shooting the ball. And he doesn't have to be a superstar. None of them have to be superstars, but they need to just, in aggregate, produce good numbers. You need 15 and 10 out of the center spot all in. And if we can get that, the wings are so incredibly talented. The sharpshooter kid feels like he's a little bit with his eyes wide open at this point, but I think he'll settle down. And then the two freshmen, I think, are going to benefit from the fact that Trimble's excellent play is going to reduce pressure on them to perform at a very high level early on. And I think both of them are immensely talented. So I'm exceptionally excited for the season.
I think
Love
you're
it.
dead on in terms of talking about recreating Armando Bacot in the aggregate. I mean, we've got three guys: Jalen Washington, Jalen Withers, Van Allen Lubin, who we're not asking for any of them to be world beaters. We're just asking them, each if they can get 6 to 7 rebounds a game, I think we're in there. So I think that's spot on analysis.
It
Uh,
will be. It'll be difficult. It'll be a bit of a learning process for Carolina fans because we are so spoiled by the strength of our rebounding, and we're just not. I bet you we get out rebounded in aggregate. It's entirely possible, but we're going to be so fast up and down the court with our wings that I think we're going to have a lot of high scoring games. It's just going to be painful for us to watch teams get 3 and 4 shots at the basket because we're not rebounding. But if um, Drake Powell, the youngster from Pittsburgh, he's going to end up playing the four sometime. What's the young man who just transferred in from uh,
Cade
Kate
Tyson from
Tyson.
Yeah, Tyson. Uh, we're asking them to play the four. Neither of them are natural born fours, and they're going to be playing against some of the best basketball players in the country, and they're going to have some bad days. And we just have to expect that it's not going to be the kind of Carolina basketball we're used to.
I think the big question now, 'cause I kind of went to the season thinking Ian Jackson was going to start at the three just to add more size to the backcourt, but now it's going to be hard not to start Seth Trimble. But that gives Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble. That's three players under 6'2". Now Trimble can play big because he's athletic, he can jump, and he's more physically imposing
Strong.
than those two.
Yeah.
But that's a small backcourt, especially when you need rebounding, you need defensive size. So it's gonna be interesting how they move in Trimble because I think Trimble deserves to start, and he may be one of the best players. Like I love what he brings on both sides of the court, but it's going to be the backcourt and how Hubert kind of maneuvers and negotiates those lineups is going to be interesting.
I hope he plays fuller court defense. There was a great Arkansas team back in the 70s or 80s, so I'm really throwing some history at you with Sidney Moncrief, Ron Brewer, and I forget the third one, but they were all 6'4" or shorter, and that was the starting team. And of course, Nolan Richardson was famous for his full court defense, 40 minutes of hell, but they just ran people into the ground. And I think that's what this team's going to have to do.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to pound it the way that we have done with Baycott in recent years. It's just going to be a different style of basketball, but I think it's going to be immensely entertaining, and they're all quite skilled. So it'll be great.
Any games you have highlighted in the non-conference that you're particularly looking forward to?
I have not studied the calendar so much.
A
I've
little
been
busy.
a little obsessed with dates before November 5th. Once that comes and goes, I'll start looking at the calendar.
Fair enough.
All right,
What good games are there? I don't even know.
We're playing at Kansas at Fog Allen, and then we
Okay.
have Alabama at home as well.
yeah, Alabama may be the best team in the country, and Kansas is right there as well. And then
Wow.
Florida and Charlotte, and then New York they play Ohio State. No.
Is it UCLA?
UCLA, yeah, that's great, and they play in Hawaii too. They could end up playing UConn in the championship in Maui too, and a couple other good games out in Maui too. All right, we're
Right.
gonna move away. We're gonna move away from UNC basketball. I have two questions that are a little related to the campaign and let Mike lead the NCAA discussion. But you had the endorsement from Roy Williams. I want to talk to you about that. How do you negotiate? Like, how does that work? How do you get an endorsement from Roy Williams? We know he's a Democrat, but you got to. He's not in the public sphere as much anymore. But how does that work to get an endorsement from such a beloved in-state figure?
Well, it was because he was retired. I thought he might do it. And if he was an active coach, I wouldn't have even asked him because why put him in that
Mhm.
position? He wouldn't have done it anyway. But he's retired, and I know he cares about his kids. I know he cares deeply about his grandkids. He cares profoundly about public schools. He has told movingly about his coach, Buddy Baldwin from up in Asheville, that he was. I think Roy was a little bit wayward, according to his own terms, when he was a young man, and Coach Baldwin helped get him on the straight and narrow, got him on a path where he could go to Carolina, and inspired him to be a coach because he could see the transformative value of coaching and leading young people who need that kind of guidance. And so, public education is one of my top issues. I care profoundly about public schools. My kids all went to public schools. Anna and my wife went to public schools. I went to public schools. I went to Chapel Hill High. Uh, Actually, I'm gonna put a pin in the Roy Williams thing tonight. My 1983 high school soccer team is getting inducted into the Chapel High Sports Hall of Fame, which
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It is. I hate to miss it. I'm in Charlotte. President Obama's here doing a big rally, so obviously I need to be. I need to be here.
President
But
Obama high school team.
yeah, I he texted a buddy of mine yesterday who said, "Hey, are you able to make it?" And I said, "No, I'm missing it." But Obama's coming to town. He said, "How about I go with Obama and you come to the induction?" So, but that coach, my soccer coach, he actually texted me this morning also to see if I was coming, and he was my history teacher. He was my soccer coach. He was a hard ass. He ran us hard. He pushed us incredibly to our limits. And when you've been through that exercise on a team and you have that camaraderie, it gives you things to fall back on later in life when times are tough or when you're in a challenging situation. And so, Coach Bosk was really important to me. Coach Baldwin was incredibly important to Roy Williams. And because of that, I said, you know what? He cares so much about public education. Public education is really on the ballot in North Carolina. We asked him, and he said, I will do it. And it was obviously a great thing, and I was incredibly honored and grateful.
And then quickly, I was going through your Instagram last night. You had a Western North Carolina relief thing with Zach Galifianakis. What was that like? What was it like meeting him? I think he went to NC State, big North Carolina guy, but obviously a kind of quirky, odd, very famous actor.
Sweet guy, just a really, really nice person. And it was very funny because he introduced himself to the kind of rally we put together. And he said, I'm Zach Galifianakis. I'm an NC State sophomore because he never graduated. And so there were all the Wolfpackers who were there, and there were a lot because it's in Raleigh and everyone loves Zach Galifianakis. And so they were all doing the Wolfpack sign at him. He had him eating out of his hands. And then he starts talking about my opponent, who we won't get too much into that in this podcast, but he has no respect for my opponent. And he's like, I was motivated to get involved in this race because I would vote for that piece of plastic over Josh's opponent. He said, I would vote for a urinal over Josh's opponent. But then I met Josh and I really liked Josh. And so I came up and gave my welcoming words. And I was like, I've never been introduced to someone better than a urinal, but here I am. I'll tell you how politics is funny. I was in Greensboro 2 days ago and meeting with the folks at the Democratic Party headquarters and just kind of thanking them and rah-rah. And Gene Banks came. Gene Banks famously was the one who really transformed Duke into who Duke is today. His senior game famously handed out roses before the game and had a winning shot or a shot to put him into OT, and then Duke beat Carolina. And I think that was Coach K's first win over Dean Smith. And so here I am hugging Gene Banks. That shows you how politics will make strange bedfellows.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear. I mean, obviously with Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina just being devastated, that has taken kind of a front seat moving forward. And talking to people, we all have friends in Asheville, how that looks like to be a years long recovery. And I'd like to kind of hear like your perspective on that moving forward and what the plans are and how normal North Carolinians can help and keep that kind of central because we know the television cameras aren't going to be there much longer, and it's going to be a long-term effort. So I'd love to hear what your administration will look at doing here in the future and what normal people can do to help.
Oh, Michael, your analysis was 100% spot on. I mean, the devastation is very hard to comprehend. I mean, it goes from Georgia to Virginia. It's just a massive, massive impact. And some communities are completely washed out. I was in Marshall, North Carolina yesterday, beautiful little county seat for Madison County, and the water went all the way up to the courthouse, which is up on a hill. So 2 stories, entire downtown, many structures just gone. There's not even physical evidence that they were ever there. And so those folks have to rebuild. And for a lot of them, they didn't have flood insurance. A lot of them had debt on their current business. And so they're now having to wrestle with, do I take on more debt to compound? And how do I get back up running? And is the community come back together? I do have a lot of confidence that Marshall will come back. It just has so many wonderful assets. But I met with many dozen small business owners in Asheville yesterday. And downtown Asheville, if you're there walking around, there's absolutely no way to know that there was ever a storm. I mean, you go to the River Arts District down by the French Broad, and it's still complete devastation. It's really heart-wrenching to see. But you have these secondary and tertiary effects where there's not potable water. So restaurants can't cook. You need potable water. Asheville has more breweries per capita than almost any city in the country. Breweries need potable water to function. So they're having to pay to bring in big water tankers so they can make their beer and then sell it at a loss just to keep shelf space in grocery stores. So go out there if you drink beer, buy Asheville beer, buy Western North Carolina beer, help them get through this very tough time. In terms of what we need to do as a state is we need to be for them the way that they have been there for each other. I mean, the story after story after story of neighbor helping neighbor in ways large and very small, but all important. It's just, you could write books of just incredible stories of heroism. And they have been there for each other, but the resource needs that they're going to need to get back on their feet are so immense that we cannot expect them to do it themselves. So we as a state have to invest meaningfully, but it's also too much for North Carolina. We have to make sure that our federal representatives are focused on getting us the resources and we can leverage them with state dollars and draw it down. But this is going to be a massive multi-billion-dollar enterprise to get roads, water systems, homes, businesses, farms, all back online. And we got to be there for them. That's what North Carolinians do, is they step up for each other.
So from the government side, I mean, if you win this election, like, I mean, are you looking at, I mean, this is going to be a huge part of what you do in the next 4 years. You're like, what, I mean, have you thought about that and kind of where it even begins? I can't even comprehend kind of the infrastructure that's needed. Like, how do you look at that kind of service level of how you approach it from the governmental level to start the recovery?
Well, a lot of this stuff has to do with roads. A lot of it has
Yeah.
to do with schools. A lot of it has to do with water systems, this kind of core governmental infrastructure. So you just systematically, place by place, what is the damage? How much does it cost? And then you add it all up and you put together a package. Governor Cooper did that actually yesterday with the General Assembly, proposed 3.9 billion. The legislature appropriated 600 million. And obviously that's a huge disparity. It's not as bleak as it sounds because they're going to be back in a couple weeks and they'll be back again. And then we immediately start the long session in 2025, and that starts with the budget process. And so we are going to be dealing with this in stages, and we have to be there. But you gotta do the hard pencil crunching work, number crunching work, pencil pushing work to figure out what's it going to cost, what are the best sources, what can we use federal dollars for, because there are more limitations on that. What do we need to backfill and use state dollars for? We're going to get to work. I'm going to put together a group of very smart, experienced people, and we're going to come up with a plan.
Okay. Yeah. Took a little turn there. I mean, it's very serious stuff. It's not UNC basketball. All right. I have one more question. Mike, did you want to do NCAA stuff at all?
No,
The
I think we kind of
test.
talked briefly about Tez Walker. Appreciate your efforts on that, Attorney General Stein.
That was crazy, like how everyone got behind it, and then like you were like suing the NCAA, and everyone was like, "Yeah, let's go, let's get Tez playing." That was a wild, like 3 or 4 week, maybe
He
longer
deserved to
situation.
play. He deserved
Yeah,
to play. And the NCAA was violating state and federal law. So we took him to court and we won.
love it.
Hell yeah.
All right, my question, and this is a little political, little campaign stuff. What is it like running against someone like Mark Robinson? Now, he is from, I'm in Greensboro right now. I live in Greensboro. I grew up in Greensboro. Mark Robinson went to my high school. I don't
Hmm.
claim him or anything, but what is it like when you see the stuff he says? You're reading all this, the CNN stuff, all the stuff that came out a month ago or so. What is it like running against someone like that? Because you have people in other campaigns who are running against kind of, normal politicians, like a Republican versus Democrat, but you're pretty moderate Democrat running against this very, very radical person who is saying crazy stuff. What is that like? Like inside, give us a little glimpse inside the hood of the strategy, and like you're just like, what the hell is this guy saying? Like, does it make it easier to make it harder? Give us a little insight to this campaign running against someone like Mark.
I mean, obviously that CNN story uncovered many despicable things, but none of us who paid any attention needed that CNN story to know that he is unfit to be governor. He lives to divide and to speak hate. He glorifies violence. these are all things antithetical to what we need to be about as a state. And I fundamentally believe that we as North Carolinians are better than that, that we actually are there for each other. And what we were just talking about in Western North Carolina is example A, because folks are helping. Nobody asked anybody who is in need, are you a Democrat, Republican, or unaffiliated person? It's just, are you in need? I have something, I can help you. Or I need your help. There's honor in both. And I just thought that if we did our jobs well, educating voters about what Mark Robinson has been about in his limited public life and what I've been about in my career of public service, I've been fighting for people, whether it's tackling the opioid crisis or eliminating the largest backlog of untested rape kits or fighting for people to have access to health care or defending people's personal freedoms. I've been fighting for a long time for people. And so I have a record I'm really proud of. And I just, from day one, had confidence that if we did our jobs well and explained to voters about the clarity of the choice, that they would make the right choice. Now, it didn't happen yet. November 5th is coming. And if folks haven't voted, I surely hope they do. Just go to iwillvote.com and you can figure out where your precinct is. Vote early. It's so easy to get it over with. What do we got? We got 8 more days of early voting. Through next Saturday, you can vote early. And then if you don't get there, go on November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th, have your voice heard and be part of deciding what kind of state are we? Who are we as North Carolinians? What are we about? And I hope you choose our more positive, forward-looking vision.
What's it gonna be like if you win? What's the party like? Like chugging beers, open bar. What is that party like? Because it's your whole life's work into this one moment. I can't imagine the relief of that.
I don't think I will feel it that way because it's not for that one moment. It's for the opportunity to do the work for the next 4 years. And so, yes, don't get me wrong. I'm going to feel joy if we win. I'm going to feel excited. I'm going to feel gratitude that the young people working on my campaign have been busting their butts. I mean, so hard, doing excellent work. We've run a great campaign. The record I've been running on is from incredible public servants at the Department of Justice who are brilliant. They are brilliant. They are incredibly hardworking. They're not paid or respected enough, but they want to do the right thing for the people of North Carolina at every turn. And so to be able to lead organizations like that we collectively have created the opportunity for a successful November 5th, we just have to make sure that we get it done over the next 11 days. And if we do, there'll be happiness.
Awesome. Good way to finish that. Want to thank Josh so much for you. You didn't have to do this. Appreciate the time. I know you're a busy man. You got Obama coming in today. We were the precursor to Obama. Want to thank producer Connor and Garrett behind the scenes here. Really appreciate it. Mike, anything else you got?
No, thank you so much for your time, sir. Really appreciate it. And good luck.
You can get me talking heels basketball anytime you want.
That's right. I knew that'd be a way to get you into this. Is like, hey, we'll show his UNC basketball fandom. All right, appreciate it, guys. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. This has been listening to The Big Hitters with Josh Stein.